head state and tattoo. The last week or so, I've fought or gone through depression, mainly since hearing the news of the paired pooling. Again, it wasn't the news that got to me, it was the length of time the consultant highlighted I may have to wait for anything and or everything to happen, therefore making me feel like I was putting my life on hold. Then, the day before an appointment I was really looking forward to, and therefore actually excited about, I heard something which nudged me back into a state of melancholia. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull myself back the way I normally do, so I took the safest option and stepped backwards by shutting myself off from those emotions and putting my armour back on. Since the start of my counselling, I've had my armour off and my mental wound, as I call it, exposed, therefore enabling me to get the help I need and prevent me from falling ill from mental stress, and in addition, let those around me who want to help me in. The news I heard threatened to push me back into the pit I was finally considering climbing out of, so I had to shut all systems down for fear my brain would take an unwanted step back into that pit. I now almost feel like my old self again. In fact, this is the first time I've written or read a blog with a clear mind. I actually feel like I'm saying what I want to say rather than a jumbled grammatical mess. And this is a really weird feeling because I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. I could also be feeling weird due to the high intensive storm which hit last night, the lightning bolts hitting almost directly over our heads. Seriously, I'm talking one Mississippi between lightning strike and thunderclap here. It's a trick to work out how far the storm is. The more Mississippis you count between each, the further the storm is. My head is clear, but still feels the electricity in the air and a mild lack of restful sleep. But I don't think that's it, as I've been feeling like this since the day of the news. I'm hiding emotions, fears, worries to protect myself until I see my counsellor again, potentially a couple of weeks' time. And I'm wondering how much of a good idea that is. The protection, not seeing my counsellor again. Then again, I don't really have much choice, as only my counsellor can really help me. And I feel I need to protect those around me from the potential avalanche I could have brewing inside my head. I have the Schrodinger's cat of emotions in my mind. I still worry about things, and it gets worse when I get tired, but it feels a little more controlled-ish. How much of that mental explosion is just waiting to happen? Because I know I'm hiding something, even from myself. Now, the day after I put my mental armour back on, I got my tattoo. So you could say, after I reapplied the bandage and armour to my mind, I obtained a literal open wound on my arm, in an artistic sense. That which I've had put on my arm is the positive aspect of my head, which I struggle to get through. I'll actually see if it's on there. Got the blog in the way. The picture on my blog isn't the best picture, unfortunately, as it appears to be a bit fuggy. It's roughly an inch or so below the wrist, so it can be covered with a sleeve for work. Here I'd like to add, I've been considering a wrist tattoo for over 4 or 5 years, designed it myself, finalised it with the artist, and had made the appointment a few days before I had my moment. After having the tattoo done, there was something about the dragon that didn't click. It didn't demonstrate the passion and anger I wanted it to. I love, love, love it, but whenever I thought of the idea of emotional intensity, my gut instinct wavered when I looked at the original image, at the final image, as it didn't seem to match the anger I had inside, which I had originally aimed for, and I couldn't work out why. The next day I was driving to my parents to go shopping with Mum, and taking the time to think to myself as I drove. An hour and a half in traffic does that to a person. Then randomly this phrase came to me. I read it a while back, and it's a phrase I think of every so often when I'm feeling blue. A man said to the Buddha, "I want happiness." Buddha said, first remove I, that's ego, then remove want, that's desire. So now you are left with only happiness. I don't care what the source is, I don't care if Buddha actually said it or what, but for the first time since reading it, it did make me think. And then it hit me. Did I really want a dragon that was perpetually angry, defensive, and, passionate on my arm? No. In fact, the dragon I'd been given would from now on represent happiness contained within something that's so strong, daring, and magnificent. As soon as I thought this, I was absolutely delighted. That fit it perfectly. The idea I needed and what I wanted. Happiness and life. Also, I was told by the tattooist that I needed to call it something. And this stuck with me for a little bit because I thought to myself, what do I want to call this dragon? What name do I need to give it? And I thought to myself, I'm going to call it Rorschach. Because he's my favourite character in Watchmen. And the Rorschach sketches, I believe they are, the ink blots, you see what you want to see in them. So my dragon is Rorschach. People can interpret it as they wish, but I will also interpret it as I wish. A little backstory. The reason I chose the dragon was, 1, because it's an awesome creature, so strong and powerful. 2, I had a dream a while back about entering paired pooling, and my fears were represented by a very, very vivid, angry, yet absolutely beautiful dragon. I remember just wanting to stand there and admire it, but the burning flames which came from its maw filled me with fear and dread, and a need to run instead. On waking, the image of the dragon which stayed with me was as shown within my blog. I put 2 pictures up of 2 dragons, and it's the first one, it looked like. The same colour, the ferocity, and the intensity. But in the pose of the second picture, facing me, picture me standing where the flames are, but I got out of the way before they actually hit. The Ankh, because I've always liked that sign, the Egyptian key of life. I have a heavy metallic necklace I used to wear constantly, and each time I wore it, I realised I wanted a tattoo of one, but not on its own, and that's when I started to consider a dragon. The tattooist I used was Eve from inksane.tattooparlour.co.uk. She was a pleasure to have as an artist and took personal interest in ensuring the design came out perfect. So a massive thank you to her for being part of that experience. She's based in Greenford and I highly recommend her. I was recommended to her by a friend who's got some amazing images from her as well. So very good recommendation. Given the above entry about my change in headspace, it's also possible having this tattoo placed on my arm had the effect I wanted it to. It's a personal message to me to stay strong and full of life in the face of adversity. It's one of the first things I want to see when I wake up from any treatment in hospital. A reminder of what I'm capable of. In other news, Kidney Research UK have raised over £10,000 from their London Bridge Walk, over 750 of which was from those who contributed to Mum's sponsorship page, as people kept adding after the walk. I can't tell you how grateful we are. If you're interested in donating, you haven't missed the boat, as you still can at the following link. Thank you.